Hello everyone, we're back with the Alpha build with Avacyn Guardian Angel, and this time we are updating it with the final set in the Tempest block, Exodus. And we have some well, maybe not interesting, but we have some nice stuff coming in today. And this set really made me think about, Avacyn and what her abilities really do, and how the pieces around her are complementing her, more than just, I want to go with a Voltron type thing because Avacyn's our only win condition. So let's go ahead and give her ways to protect, give her evasion, and stuff like that. So one of the things that I realized that we were having trouble with were, for one, those damn Eldrazi. You've heard me complain about those before. They get around Avacyn's protection. But we have other ways now to help deal with Eldrazi. The deck is going to be part complementing Avacyn and helping enable her, like with our Sword of the Chosen, which will help buff her up, and the armors, the Kithkin armor, the Flickering War stuff to help her get around stuff. But it's also going to feature. But I think going forward, we're going to have keep an eye on the fact that we need other ways to take care of anything that Avacyn can't. Avacyn will help protect us from stuff that goes wide, like Sun Swarming token attacks, or commander damage or stuff like that. But for everything else, we need to have ways to actually deal with that. And that just means kind of slowing everyone else down, which is kind of where some of the cuts and stuff that came into play today. But first off, let's go ahead and talk about all of the brand new toys we get to play with. First off, we get one of my favorite cards ever, Soul Warden. It's a 1-mana 1/1, but whenever another creature enters the field, you gain a life. So she's going to be very passive life gain. She can actually get us quite a bit of life gain. We've seen a lot of people just do random token things. We've seen people just loop tokens together. Last time I think we saw an ally deck just looping stuff together. And if they didn't have that mill condition, then Soul Warden actually just keeps us in the game indefinitely for as long as they want to keep making tokens and all that. It'll be a nice little life cushion for us. So I'm happy to have Soul Warden here. Also, off note, we have 17 creatures right now, so we're getting there. We're getting close to the 1/5 mark, which I typically like having about 26 creatures. I like heavier decks. Given that we're playing mono white, there are a lot of white weenies and stuff like that. We have the most creatures, but the creature quality isn't that great. It's a lot more about teamwork. And with Commander, it's a little harder to pull that off because you're playing a singleton format. But we are seeing a bunch of stuff just trying to come together. Maybe if this was more of an aggro-based Commander deck, like if we had a more aggro-based Commander than this Avacyn, then honestly, we'd probably be looking at a much different deck right about now. We ended up cutting Sajar Jabari. There was another guy that came out who was actually more or less exactly like Sajar Jabari, except he didn't have flanking. He wasn't legendary from one of the portal sets. And I just kind of passed over him because, we already had Sidar. But one of the things that, looking at all these cards and all that makes me excited to build a more aggressive white deck in the future. Something like Aurelia, where we can have a lot of, when they attack, tap stuff down effects. Stuff that can take more advantage of this tempo. I think one of the problems that we're having just comes from the nature of Avacyn herself, the fact that, she's a 5/4 with vigilance, and she doesn't lend herself to the aggressive plays that we probably could be making if we were playing a much more aggressive commander. If you want to go with something with like an Isimaru or a Kithion, something like that. So going forward, we have Oath of the Lieges, which is going to help out our buddies who keep getting stuck on land. Oath of the Lieges is a 2-mana enchantment that says, at the beginning of each player's upkeep... Well, let me go ahead and make this just a little bit bigger so that you guys can see it better. Yeah. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player chooses a target player who controls more lands than he or she does in his or her opponent. The first player may search his or her library for a basic land card and put that card into the battlefield, then shuffle his or her library. That land doesn't come into play tapped, so that helps a lot with the tempo. It's going to be another one of those, hey, people are ramping out ahead of us, and we're going to use this to go ahead and try and keep up. Other people will be able to keep up. One of the things that Avacyn does well is she helps empower people to... She protects and empowers. So she's going to help empower people who are a little behind or not running decks that are as fast or as strong as whoever's out in the lead. And then we'll be able to either catch up and overthrow them or what have you. Plus, it's no fun watching someone just kind of get stuck on lands and not be able to play at all. so this will help make up for it. Then we have a couple. Yeah, we have a few gems over here at the 3 slot. Shackles. It's just a 3-mana aura that says enchanted creature can't untap, but you can pay a white to bounce back. One, I love the enchantments that can bounce themselves back because it helps negate the inherent disadvantage of, oh, hey, you can't act. You just get 2 for 1 every time this card dies or something like that. Granted, we're putting on someone else's creature, but it gives it a nice little invasion. Helps us get ready for an Enchantress package where we could potentially just keep looping stuff together. Like if we ever get to Shards of Alara, then we'll have the Signature of the Empty Throne, which will give us a 4 for Angel every time we play an enchantment. I would like to get to the point where I could actually play that. It'd be pretty cool. And we have enough stuff that's tapping stuff down. We've got the Icy Manipulator, we've got Kismet, Master Decoy. We had Sidar Jabari, but Master Decoy actually just kind of does Sidar's job without risking going into combat, which is actually fine. You also run into the fact that Master Decoy still works when Moat is on the field and Sidar does not, unfortunately. But we have enough tapping down effects to really make this work. Where they drop the Ulamog, we can go ahead, tap down the Ulamog, and Shackles will be another answer for that. It's a little janky, but it's something that we can try. We're trying this out in place of the Exile. I'm not liking the instants that cost more than 2 mana, unless they just have, really good effects. And Exile is a good effect, but I can't be afraid to just not take things out if something else presents itself as a potential suitor. Medicine Bag is a nice piece of tech. It's a 3-mana artifact that says pay 1, discard a card, regenerate target creature. So it's another way to protect Avacyn, and it's going to turn all those dead lands we keep drawing into basically just regenerates. That's actually pretty fantastic. It means Avacyn can trade. It means that we can afford to get into combat a little more. This is actually a really nice piece of tech. It just kind of moves Aurum just straight up, since this will help protect against Wrath and all that. Granted, it won't protect against Wrath of God, since it can't be regenerated clause, but much more the removal and there's as removal gets a little more powerful with all the effects that they get stable on the more new modern sets, Medicine Bag will become a little more relevant because more people want to play those sets, and those usually don't have the no regenerating rider. Then we have Treasure Hunter. It's a 3-mana 2/2, and it actually came in 10th edition, so this is modern legal. But when it comes into play, you may return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. I was actually almost thinking about cutting Mishra's Workshop because we are just playing so many less artifacts than we used to, and most of them are actually over here in this 2 slot. But with the frequency that we end up losing some of our artifacts that we do want late game, like Sword of the Chosen, Howling Mine, stuff like that, having an on the battlefield, when it hits the battlefield, regrow an artifact, that's not bad, especially when we have new stuff that we want to try out and might be relying on, like Medicine Bag. And we still have the Tanos' Coffin and the Icy Manipulator. Next up, Soltari Visionary. It's a 2/2 for 3, and it's got Shadow. But, more importantly, whenever it deals damage to a player, it destroys an enchantment that player controls. So, one, this guy's nigh unblockable. They're just never going to be able to throw guys in front of them unless they're playing the odd shadow creature themselves, which is unlikely. So there's a chance that he's going to eat removal, but usually I expect this guy to just start sniping enchantments. He's going to be one of those guys that I'm going to throw down early if I see something, and he's going to discourage people from just dropping down enchantments before they can get rid of them. Now there's and he's going to be because of that, he'll be one of the usual targets for stuff like Breath of Life, Miraculous Recovery, stuff where we want him to be able to stick around for a bit. So between him and the Cloud Chaser Eagle and these Revive spells and all that, our removal gets a little bit better. Helps maintain that creature count too. So we only have 2 other cards now. Next one, Allay. One really good buyback card. It's something that I feel like any mono white deck would be pretty remiss not to run. You'd have to have like a specific synergy reason not to be running Allay, I feel. Allay is a 2-mana instant that says destroy target enchantment, but you can buy it back for 3. So for 5 mana, you just keep popping enchantments. I was talking about how, given a choice between artifacts and enchantments, I feel like we need to include more enchantment removal rather than artifacts, since, more colors will have more answers to artifacts. But white has the stronger enchantment removal. you can argue that green's definitely more versatile. Green can hit artifacts or enchantments, but on the off chance that no one else is playing green, we need to make sure that we can cover those enchantments because other people are probably going to be able to deal with artifacts, or at least that's the theory. Plus, because it has that buyback, it's going to help us on our card advantage. And then lastly, we have Exalted Dragon. It's a 5/5 for 6, so that's actually about average for a modern day dragon. This one, of course, flies and says when he attacks, you can't attack him. Well, he can't attack, period, unless you sack a land. That's not that great. You don't want to be losing a land every turn just to attack with a 5/5 that doesn't do anything else. However, that doesn't keep him from blocking, and we have Oath of the Lieges out. So in theory, we can use Oath of the Lieges to replace whatever land gets hit with the Exalted Dragon. Because this happens at the upkeep, maybe we'll be able to finally filter out those damn lands we keep drawing into and increase our chance of drawing more spells. So a little bit of a wombo combo here. We have other things that will trigger off of having less lands, like land tax, Gift of Estates, Tithe. So in theory, the Exalted Dragon actually won't hurt us that badly. So we'll go ahead and see. So that's going to be it for the deck tech. Let's go ahead and get into the games. Stay tuned.